I sat down, I got inspired to make some stuff, and I thought it might be fun to have somebody hanging out with me while I made some stuff. So I did a live stream this afternoon, and I was talking about these sigils that I made of the from Solomon's Key, Solomon Manual of Divination and Ritual Spells. This is out of print. I'll do a full review of this at some point, but not tonight. But you'll see a lot of it because I'm gonna be doing. Hey, it's okay. Um, that's my husband, Cliff. If you can see him. So I made a bunch of these for Yule, and I had like a big pile of them, and my family all just sort of got in a headspace, trancy headspace, magical headspace, whatever, and picked one. And what I did was I printed out the rituals. The book has like divinatory meanings in the front, and then it's also got rituals at the back. And so I printed out the rituals, and each of these is, like a demon or an entity. And they each have their own vibe to them. So I picked out ones that sounded nice and positive to me. And then I started making these sigils. In the first batch that I made, I completely ruined. This is the second vapula that I made that has not been baked. And this was the first one that I made that I overbaked. I did the writing in black, first of all, but I overbaked and it ruined the colors. And so I just went, screw that, and set those aside. And then I did them all over again. But I took the rituals and printed them out, and I got the color candles that were recommended. And I sort of rolled the ritual up around the candle and sealed them. And so everybody just sort of, asked the universe what it wanted them to focus on or bring into their lives. And then they picked one of these scrolls and they got to take home the sigil. And, these are talismans. They can be used for whatever you want to use them for. And for some reason, I'm getting a lot of lint on this paper towel. So I'm starting tonight, and I'm just going to replace the ones that were gifted at Yule so I can have the set again. And I did not do all of them because some of them are really have sort of a negative vibe to them. Like one of them is for fear and immobility and failure and stuff like that, which you could indeed be grappling with. But I figured at Yule, that's not what I wanted people to have the option of focusing on. What I'm doing here is marking like a quarter of an inch in. Uh-oh. Clearly, I need to re-energize. Okay, wait. There we go. Okay. So, come on, make a dot. There we go. And then I'll make a dot a quarter inch in here. And even just 2 dots is enough to help me orient this little piece of contact paper. I have gloves on because you get fingerprints all over these mirrors and then you can't clean them off without destroying the paint. And these are paint markers that I'm using. I got to take gloves off to get this off of here. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And I see 0 viewers, which is like totally fine with me. It just kind of makes it so I don't have to feel weird about talking to myself while I'm making these things. And I wish I could have music in the background. I had music in the background on one of my live streams, and YouTube kind of slapped me on the wrist. They said, "Ooh, you did a naughty, but we're not going to punish you for it." So I don't know what I can and cannot get away with. All right, so I got to line this up with that dot, and that totally didn't work. Hold on. Oh my God. Sort of. It isn't really centered. Lord, Lord, Lord. All right, hold on here. You know what? That's going to have to work. And looky, I got fingerprints on it. So what I'm going to do first is take my paint pen and just make little dots around the edges of this circle, and that's pissing me off because it's not centered, so I have to fix it. So these are symbols that can be used for a number of things. They can be used for as a talisman. You can put this symbol on something and carry it with you for, protection or something you want to bring. And just so you know, the difference between an amulet and a talisman is pretty much amulet is an attracting thing, and a talisman is a warding thing, so against, a protective sort of. I've seen the words used interchangeably a lot. All right, that's got to be good enough. I can't do anymore. And then I got to wipe the edges again. So these are paint pens I'm using, and I can't just draw a circle around here because the paint will squish underneath the stencil. So I just basically make dots, and then I take the stencil off, and then I connect the dots. And my years of doing henna body art really help because I can't tell you how many times I had to freehand a circle. And I got better at it, sure can't do a perfect circle freehand, and certainly not now because I'm out of practice, but the henna art certainly helps this process. One of the things, and if you looked at my earlier live stream today, I talked about all this then too, but I'm talking about it again. Come on. When you're drawing, okay, I'm going to stick you over here. You go into right brain mode. Right brain is your visual brain. And right, let me put this where you can actually see what I'm doing. There's going to be a lot of fiddling around here. Just bear with me. Got to get the lighting right so I can see what I'm doing. Because working on a mirror is really tricky. Tricky and interesting. And I just moved this over to the side, and my ring light is shining in it and in my eyes, so that's no good. So you go into right brain mode, and if you notice, very frequently if I'm drawing and I'm talking, I start drawing and I just kind of trail off because it's hard to be in left brain language mode when you're drawing. Not going to be perfect by a long shot, but close enough for jazz. As I said earlier today, we have a saying at Hogwarts, and when I'm leading dances as well. That comes from one of the cards of Morgan's Tarot. And that saying is, it may not be a perfect circle, but it is a perfect whatever it is. So I am counting on the inherent perfection of imperfection, the wabi-sabi thing. And wabi-sabi is a Japanese aesthetic of, first of all, the beauty of sort of natural degradation and natural decay, and just the perfection of imperfection. I studied Japanese tea ceremony for a few years. Whoopsie. And And it was so wonderful for, really getting in that headspace of the full appreciation of the moment, whatever it is. Okay, I'm going to put the letters on. I've got to prop this up because the ring light is just shining right in my eyes. So this first one I'm doing is Ipos, I-P-O-S. And Ipos stands for courage. Its day of the week is Monday. It's the southern quadrant. The third hour after sunset is its planetary hour. And let's see, we're probably in the second hour after sunset by now. Angel of the day is Gabriel. The planetary ruler is moon, and the element is water. And the colors are red and orange. Red for the physical and orange for the spiritual. So I put the orange on the outside and red in the middle in the first one that I did. And I'm going to follow that along. Okay. So, Ipos for courage. And yes, this is not exactly in the center. It's going to bug the crap out of me, but then again, we're just going to let it be off center. You can fix that a little bit. These are the henna tricks. Fix that a little bit if it's a little shifted to one side by outlining, on the outside of one side, on the inside of the other. Just to shift its center of gravity a little bit. All right, I got to keep this over here because my pen's, and suddenly I am like roasting hot. I'm going to pull my socks off. Okay, it's probably because I've been running up and down the stairs trying to gather supplies, and we'll see how many of these I get done. So right at the top there, we're going to put the letter I. So while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about courage and what it means. And then I'm going to flip this over and do the O. Since this is a 4-letter thing, it's, in the quadrants. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Put the O there. And then I'm trying to see what you guys are seeing here. The P. It's interesting that the colors are orange and red, and it's moon and water, but, I'm going with what they say. S. Put little serifs on there. Ipos, courage. Now comes the fun part. Here's my pattern. I'm going to put, hold on one second here. I'll fart around, see what I got going on. If you can, oh, yes, it's showing me live. Looky there. Okay. But what I am going to bring up is, okay. Now I can see what I'm doing in my own little, actually I need to see it big. What I'm doing is pulling up on my screen a scan of this pattern so I can really see it large. What the heck? What the heck? Oh my God. Okay, things have gone south here. All right. I have an issue. Is that the understatement of the century? I have a lot of issues. What I'm trying to do is, there we go. Okay, now I can see it nice and big. So if you see this pattern, it is symmetrical, so difficult to do. But since I've got letters in 4 quadrants and it's already divided that way, it's going to be a little bit easier because then I can sort of mark out my places. So like there's, where did I put that? There, you can see it. There's going to be a circle here, and it's just a little to the side. I'm terribly nervous. And I'm going to turn this and go like equally. And that's off. I can see it's off right now. So I've got an X-Acto knife to scrape the crap out of this. It's a great way to get the stuff off. Oh, the other thing I need that I don't have is alcohol and Q-tips. And you know what? I realize I'm sweating bullets here because I'm extremely nervous to be doing this in front of an audience, which is no audience at the moment. I have 0 viewers. Okay. I'm going to let that be good enough. I will go get the alcohol in a little bit if things get really bad. Okay. And that kind of helps because I can sort of see where I put it before that was not the right place. So we're going to move it over. It's still off. And you know what? It's going to have to be. Just going to have to be there. Okay. Now, on either side of the eye, I'm going to place a dot. And that's where I'm going to connect the dots. So here we go. It's funny because when I was doing henna, one of the most common comments from somebody that you'd be working on, and they would be like amazed and astounded that you were doing art. And a very common comment would be, I could never do that. I can't draw a straight line. Well, I want you to ask any artist you know how many straight lines they actually draw. In art, there aren't really that many straight lines. Okay, now, a little more than halfway, we've got a line that goes across. And okay. And a little ball on the end of each there. Sorry if I'm whispering. I have to remember that I'm not actually just talking to myself. Okay. Now, we've got these kind of bee-looking figures that are going to go bigger at the top than the bottom. There's one. I think I might do it this way. What do you think? Not too bad, huh? I'm looking over here because I've got my monitor on my left screen. Okay. Now, right where the middle letters are is another line that is shorter than the one above it. And it's interesting that I'm starting with Epos and I'm sweating like a pig because courage, you know. I have horribly low self-esteem. Lots of reasons for that. And I've dealt with it my whole life. In part, you know, I'm a sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person, Pisces moon. And I just always doubt my own skill right off the rip. So you might think it odd that I'm actually a performer and a musician and stuff. It makes it really difficult to perform sometimes. And I can see, I'm looking at this now and I'm seeing the wonkiness of it. But, you know, when I was doing henna, one of the things I learned right off the bat was that not to get fussy about it, just to let it flow, because you could do a line or a curve. It's like, that's not quite right, or that line's not quite straight. But by the time you got the whole pattern done, the whole thing would hang together. It would, suddenly it would become a pattern and not just a series of imperfect lines. So, so yeah, you just got to keep booking on here. I'm going to do this because remember how I said if you kind of go inside one side and outside the other, you can sort of straighten things up a little bit? Well, I'm going to do that right now. Because I'm made it wider on the one side, and then I'm scraping off something from the outside of one side and the inside of the other. Once everything's perfectly dry, I'll make a better job of it. But there, it is scooched. I scooched it officially to the left. That makes me a lot happier, but now that line's a little wonky. Whatever. All right, so we're going to put a little O in the middle here. And now I have a decision. Do I line it up with the O so that's straight, or do I just line it up according to the pattern? And of course it will be according to the pattern. So I'm going straight down to like right where those start. And now we have 3 more lines. You know what? I should get these cards out so you can actually see them and you can see the pattern better while I'm working on it. All right, let me see here what I got. Shax. There's one of the demons is called Shax. It's the best name ever. I love the names of them. And is this the group that I took? Yes. Okay. So we're going to hunt through here. Epos. There we are. Here's Epos. I'm going to put that there so you can see it. Hopefully you can see it a little better than I can on my computer screen. All right. Let's put the bottom line on first. Trying to be as parallel as possible. That's the shortest line. Then we have, I'm going to have to make that line shorter. We have a little longer. Okay. And then I got to make those little serifs like on the ends. Now I'm going to do the bottom one. And then I'll scritch off a little bit here. So when I did the first set, there were no instructions with the paint pens about baking. But, you know, there were things saying that it was washable and permanent and all this kind of stuff. So I did some searching here and there, and somebody said bake them at, I think it was 20 minutes for 200 at 30 minutes. And I did that. And then I thought, okay, it's permanent. And I don't know what in the world was going on in my head, but I decided to wipe it off with alcohol, like to get rid of the fingerprints, and it just took all the ink off, even baked. So I was very sad, and I had to do it again. And then I went back of the other ones that I did, and I baked them for like hotter and longer. I think it was mostly hotter, like 400 or something. And that's when I absolutely killed the colors. Made me so sad. Okay, let me do this a little bit one down. I mean, that doesn't look too bad, does it? What do you think? Little wonky, but it's freehand. I mean, this is the thing. It's free flowing, and I like that feeling of just going in and doing it. And it kind of amazes me that I can pull that off at all, you know. And I did try to like put a pattern on first with Sharpie, but you could see it underneath because you're looking in a mirror. So, you know, when I'm looking from where I'm looking, I see two lines. I see the line that's sitting on top of the glass, and I see the line that's reflected in the silver underneath the glass. And so let's say I did it even with a red Sharpie. If it wasn't exactly this color red, you could see it underneath the paint reflected in the mirror. And that kind of sucked. All right, now I'm going to go around the edge. And as I'm doing this edge line, I'm thinking about sealing in the pattern and this concept of courage. Okay. So if you noticed, when I put the first little circle around the middle, I was kind of going this way and doing little segments and going back and forth. That final line I'm doing in a clockwise direction. It's not continuous by any means, but I'm doing it in a clockwise direction. So it's kind of, you know, that positive energy and sealing things in. Okay. And of course, this is the first one I've done since December, this being the end of February. So I think I'm probably going to have to, you know, get my chops back a little bit. And I'm also seeing that the S is a little off. And you know what? I'm just going to let it go. I've sealed it in. And there we have it. There's Epos. I don't know how many more of these I can do here, but I've only been on 28 minutes. I think I'm going to keep going a little bit since there's nobody to bother, you know. Okay, Epos, you go away. The next one up is, who's up next? Furcus? Oh, let's just do this. Furcus. Furcus. So the colors of Furcus, let me look him up. It's number 50. Now my eyes are starting to water like mad. Yikes. It's in the evening. My eyes get dry in the evening. So Furcus is the day of the week is Thursday. Western quadrant, 8th hour after sunrise. Fire, Jupiter. Angel of the day is Sachiel, and the candle color is light blue or light purple. So I want you to look at this. I did this with purple around the edge and blue in the middle, and look at what happened to that color. It turned it pink. Pink! So, and this is for divination. Furcus is for divination. Where's my clean mirrors? So when you're doing one of these, for instance, with Epos, it said that the planet was the moon and the element was water. So a really excellent thing to do with that would be to charge it under the full moon or even under a new moon. Of course, it's, you know, it seems to have more of an impact when you can see the light of the moon reflected in, but you can do it with the new moon. What you could do is catch the light of the setting sun, because at new moon, the sun and moon are conjunct. We can't see the moon's light, because it's in the same degree as the sun. It's not in the exact same place, declination wise, like north south wise. If it was, we get an eclipse. So, what would really be fabulous is to charge this under an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, because actually, no, a solar eclipse, because that's a new moon. Solar eclipse is new moon, lunar eclipse is full moon. You'll catch me saying things backwards on this heckin' Mercury retro. And man, the lint is something else. Something else. Okay. Wait, that's Visago. Where did Furcus go? I didn't get the card out. There he is. Furcus is divination. So as I was saying, it would be great to, put it under the moonlight. It would also be great, and if you're paying attention to the day of the week and the hour of the day, it would also be great to do things with water. Like you could take that and set a glass of pure water on it, let it charge there, and then drink the water to give you courage. So you can make the working that you do with these, or the spell work that you do with these, match the element, the day, the angel of the day, all of that stuff. Look at the difference in the color from the one that I overbaked. It's actually not that different looking on camera, but wow, looking at it. And this is also starting to flake off. Even though when I got them out of the oven and they were ruined, I tried to sort of scratch the ink off because I hate to waste the mirrors. I might give this to my husband to do with the razor blade. He's a wizard with a razor blade. And he likes really fiddly, tedious work like this. So I'm thinking, that might be something he could do, because I hate to waste things. And if they don't look good and they've been overbaked, I mean, first of all, I fried their energy, so I'm not going to give those to anybody. All right. Furcus, so what colors did we say? Oh, we've got the purple, and light blue. So I've got this light purple and I've got this light blue. Did it say light purple and light blue, or did it just say purple and light blue? Let's find out. Light blue or light purple. Well, we're doing both. All right, now I got to try to center this thing again. And since the putting the dots there didn't really work, I'm just going to frickin' eyeball this. And that is much more centered than the first one I did that I tried to mark out. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Okay, now we do the dots. Oh shit. See, even the dots, I just got one real close to the edge there and it's squished underneath. But, X-Acto knives are our friends here. Man, I'm getting a lot underneath there. Poopy. Well, this is an exercise in self-forgiveness. And when you're doing something like this, there was a friend of mine that posted something on Facebook, and this person has been in abusive relationships. And a dysfunctional upbringing. And they were talking about, the voices in your head that just cut you down all the time, and how, we internalize the language of abuse from the people that have abused us. And me and another person were having a conversation with them about catching yourself in the negative self-talk and what to do about it, and talking back to it. And when you do something like this, it's a great opportunity, because, man, your brain will start quacking at you that that's not right, it's not perfect, you're not, unless you're like a master of what you do. And even if you are a master of what you do, I'm sure people have moments. So, it's an opportunity that when your brain starts telling you shit, when your brain starts smack talking you, um, it's a great time to be aware, and particularly when when I'm doing these things and I want them to carry positive energy. I'm going to catch myself saying negative things, and I'm going to practice self-forgiveness. And you can kind of split yourself into two sometimes, especially when you're healing. You have the person that's healing and the person that's, fucked up. And I mean, those are the same person, but the person that is like actively doing the healing work, you can kind of split yourself in two, and that person can take the one that's really messed up and say, hey, listen, here's the way we're going to do this now. And you can become your own best friend that way. I remember a friend that was going through some really tough times. She was going through a divorce. Her husband had horribly betrayed her. And she was just having, and this woman was incredibly talented, songwriter. And, it was something she didn't know she could do. And all of a sudden she started pumping out all these songs, and it was amazing. And she called me one time and she was terribly distressed. And I, of course, was saying, hey, counselor, hey, how about a counselor? Hey, why don't you go to a counselor? Why don't you get some help? And she just was like, no, 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 I can't do that. No, no, no. But she was asking me what to do. And I said, you know what? If you came upon this woman having these problems in the state that you're in, would you help that woman? Or would you walk away? Would you say you don't deserve help? No, darling, sorry, you don't deserve help. Or would you help that woman? So I think she got the message there, and we can be our own worst enemies in so many ways, so many ways. But that's one way, by not getting the help we need when we need it. So back to Furcus. Furcus is divination. My guts are gurgling. I sure hope you can't hear that. And then this is the opposite pole. My hand is starting to shake. Okay. Now this is a tough one because it's 6 letters. So you have to divide, And you notice I did that C upside down. I didn't really see the point in turning it when I'm looking at the line here. And, left brain wants language, and it wants to name things. This is why when little kids are drawing a face, they all look kind of the same. You've got, eyes, nose, mouth. As long as there are all the things on the list that I can name, very Virgo-y left brain, then there's a face. But right brain looks at the relationship of lines in that face. It looks at the expanse of the forehead. It looks at the curve of an eye and the shading on the nose. And so I don't need to name that the letter C. I just needed to have it in a straight line here, and it's this curve that goes this way. So, I'm actively engaging my right brain now. I'm thinking like right here and then there. Here we go. So this is going to be an S. Flying by the seat of my pants here. Down here we're going to have an R. There's an awesome book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And I'm by no means a visual artist, a drawer. I have busted out portraits of my kids, pencil portraits. I can do it. I'm not trained. It's not the thing that I love the most. Um, okay, how'd I do? I think I did pretty damn well. All right, now we've got the third set of letters. There's right in between the other two. I've got a U. So there's this great book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and it takes you through that shift from left to right brain, and the pictures in it are amazing. People took this, seminar or workshop about learning to draw, and they would tell them to draw a self-portrait in the beginning, and they were very juvenile, primitive looking things, and some of, attempts at shading at stuff, but still eyes, nose, mouth. You could see the list getting ticked off rather than looking at the relationships of lines and stuff. And then they take this course, and then it would show their self-portrait at the end, and it's just amazing. And one of the exercises that they did that you can do as well is they had like line drawings, and they would give this to people to do. And I've used this in a meditation class so you can experience the left-right brain shift. And you give someone this thing to copy, and they have to have it upside down. They look at it upside down, because then left brain doesn't recognize the body parts, and you're forced to shift into right brain and looking at the relationships. And it's a fascinating thing. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Did I spell it right? F-U-R-C-A-S. Furcus. Okay. Now, divination. Furcus is divination. And we've got another very symmetrical thing here. This is going to be a little bit easier because there's like a ball, and then I connect the dots. So, doing henna patterns, when I first started, not being, primarily a visual artist or a drawer, I was so intimidated, and I worked only from patterns, and this is how you start with art. I was watching Yvonne Williams tonight, and she said that you start by imitating, and so I would just start by copying patterns. I would duplicate that pattern as best I could, and the first thing I had to learn was how to recognize the starting point, and I call it the way in. Where's the way in? And so, like, if you're looking at a henna pattern, there's a central flower. Maybe it's the center of that flower that gets drawn, and then things go around it. In more complex patterns, it can be harder to find the entry point into that pattern. But, that's what you got to do. So I'm actually going to use this as a little bit of a... So these little O's are going to be like right here. Are they touching? Yes, they're touching. There's one. There's two. Now, there's one right here. And there's one right here. All right, let's see how I did. Now I got to connect across here. So divination is about patterns. Seeing the patterns and the things that repeat. Divination is as above, so below. This should have been, that's okay. I'm just going to do it. A little wonky at the bottom. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. scooching this line over just slightly, and then I'll do a scrapey scrape. So divination is about seeing the connections between things, about seeing the universe reflected back to itself in every part. All right, let's see here. Why does this look so much wider than that one? I think the circles could have been bigger. That's okay. The whole pattern is what counts. So we're going to have one right here. We're going to have one right here. And you know how I can tell? Because those circles don't go across in a straight line. Where I put the line should have been under. How much do I care? I don't. Okay. It's getting really wonky there. I think, see, I'm talking. I'm talking while I'm doing, and that's not really good for doing visual things like this. You are getting moved. And again, holy cow, am I sweating? I am sweating buckets here, you guys. And then I'm going to take a break and go get some Q-tips and some alcohol because I'm going to have to clean up even after scraping it off here. Sorry if that noise is driving you crazy. I'm going to get off as much as I can. And I will use a little bit of damp paper towel because it's got Windex on it, and Windex will take this paint off too. So I hope you appreciate that I'm like letting it all hang out here. I am an expert by no means. You know, the only thing I'm really an expert in is my life and my own story at this point. Okay, I will be right back. Okay. I think I got Q-tips down here. Please. Yes. All right. Oh, great. Used Q-tips I've got down there, for crying out loud. Correction, used Q-tip. Oy. All right. I've got 91% alcohol here, which will take anything off of anything. Okay. Can you tell I've practiced this part a lot? Now all of this, getting back into crafting, you know, the holidays are such a disruption for me, just as far as the rest of my life goes. I mean, they're a disruption for everybody, but when you've got connective tissue disorder and autoimmune issues and all that, that kind of activity just really knocks you down a peg. Did I just put that in the exact same place that I put it in before? No. Okay. All right. I'm happier with that. And then we have a circle and a circle and a circle. So like I was saying before, divination. Furcus is divination. And divination is about seeing the patterns and the connecting points of everything. As above, so below. Go here. And so, people that do divination see that reflection in everything. We can find meaning by looking at tarot cards. We can find meaning, depending on your culture, by looking at chicken entrails, by looking at the patterns of animals moving, by looking at the weather. And, I think the major question that goes on is, how is this like that? So, you just kind of look at what's going on in life and what's going on around you, and then you say, how are these two things alike? How are they connected? What information is this giving me about my current situation? And it requires that you have your eyes open and your mind open. It requires some trust. I feel like I need to look at it. Okay. It's sincere. So, this is about the connections. Connections in places, connections between people. Oh, I see one viewer. Who's there? Slip the trap. Those are cool looking, especially ones with dark and black. Okay, well, I think I'm going to do one more here before I go. And this one is Bale, and it's gorgeous. But, okay, now I'm going to concentrate because I'm going to put the boundary around Furcus here. Okay, there we go. There is Furcas divination. So, what again was the element was fire. So this would be one that would be really great to like stand up on your altar and put a candle in front of it and just imagine that the flame is reflected, the fire is reflected in this and then shines back out again. So that would be a great way to charge this. It would be a great thing to do, like when you're doing readings, like when I'm doing readings, to set focus up with a candle so that that divination energy can shine out. I think that would be a sweet thing to do. I'm going to do one little thing here. All right. You might not have seen what that did, but I did. Okay. So there are two, Epos and Phorcus. And like I said, the next one I'm going to do is Baal. And one of the things I tried to do was to seal these in some way, and I used, what did I use? Like Mod Podge or something. And you see what a disaster that was. It's just very streaky and awful, and there was no way to make it look good. And then I tried a spray sealant, and that's in some ways worse. You could see where I kind of scraped it off, and I was so sad because I did a really bang up job on this pattern, and then it looked like crap with the sealant on it. So, All right, let me find my big pattern here. Where are you, Baal? Vapula, Renove, Phoenix, Boer, Cameo, Baal. There you are. Baal is invisibility. And boy, I got to be careful with this energy, trying to run a YouTube channel to be dealing with the invisibility energy. So, let's think about what invisibility could be. It could be that somebody, and right away what springs to mind is just women and people that are out in the public and getting attention that is unwanted and not positive. That invisibility would work there. It could also be just having the freedom to go about your business and do what you want to do without interference. I think that could be. It's the number 1 card in this deck, so let's take a look. All right. And I had to do it because you see the kitty? There's a kitty. Look. There's a kitty. And my daughter has 2 spooky boys. She's got 2 black kitties. Azazel, let's see. Azazel, what's his middle name? And then Alucard Ruprecht. So, wait a minute. I got to find out. Hey, Tam. What's Zazy's middle name?
I have no idea.
Can't remember either. So there's Zazie, and there's Alucard Ruprecht, who is known as Beep. Okay, so Baal is the Eastern Quadrant, fire, Mars. Day of the week is Tuesday, 10th hour after sunset. Samael is the angel of the day, and the candle color is black. So it says, use this card for any spell to achieve invisibility of form or to cast a spell of invisibility over any person, object, or activity. Right away you think, oh, that could totally lend itself to some shady business there. But here's a weird story. I lived always lived in apartments, but I was living in a twinplex, side by side. And best place I've ever lived. It had a fireplace. This was where I became a single parent and stayed there for a couple of years, and it was the most magical place. I had a temple room that had a fireplace in the south and a doorway in the east, and the bathroom was in the west, and on the other side of the north wall was the kitchen. It was just set up perfectly for the elements. And the fireplace was amazing. I was down there doing ritual all the frickin' time. And, I'll tell you some stories about the magic that went on in that place. I'm sure you'll hear many stories along the line here. But this one night, I was down in the temple room and I was doing my ritual, and the husband next door was a smoker, and he smoked outside. And I was doing my ritual. It's late at night, and there was a circle of oak trees in the backyard. And I used to do lots of magic out there. I would, pour out, I would go out and drink my libation and pour my libation to the goddess. And I would burn candles out there and just do all kinds of stuff. So this was, like I said, late at night. I'm figuring everybody's in bed. I had on my long, long, long black cloak, and being a solitaire and practicing sky-clad ritual, I didn't have anything on underneath it. And I went outside, as I had done many times before, with no problem, because it was late at frickin' night and it was a weeknight. And I'm out there kind of crouched down, and I heard their porch door open. And I thought, oh shit, now what do I do? And their porch light came on, which was not enough to reach over to me. And I just went into stone mode. I was crouched down. I already had my hood pulled up over my head. And it was black. It was a dark night. It wasn't full moon or anything. And I just stayed right where I was, and I stayed as still as a stone for however long it took him to smoke that cigarette. And to this day, I do not know whether he knew I was there or not. I hope he didn't, because, God, that's embarrassing. But, crazy ritual stories. I think if he had seen me, would he have said something? I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. I'm sure that they heard, plenty of drumming coming from my side. And the daughter over there used to babysit for my daughter, so I think she certainly saw what was down in that temple room. So who knows what they thought? Who knows what he thought? And, ultimately, who cares? I didn't have to interact with him, so it was all good for me. All right, circle. So invisibility, I mean, what do you think? I still have my one viewer. Hey, Slip the Trap, what do you think? It's you and me, bud. What do you think? What would you use this for? And this said fire and Mars. So again, you could do a fire spell. I would let the light shine from the, set a candle in front of the mirror, but you could also set a candle on top of the mirror and the light would reflect down into it. I also thought it would be cool to try, shining a light on these to see if you can see the pattern in, what reflects out onto a wall or something. That probably wouldn't work at all, but, fun to think about. Okay. To be, and then I just fucked up. I forgot what I was doing, and my left brain said BAEL, so I went BA instead of BA. So, let's fix that, shall we? And this is certainly going to be the last one I do tonight because I'm falling to pieces right in front of your eyes. Okay. So I'm using that Q-tip to kind of lift the paint right off, and then I'm using this other one to rub it harder and get it clean and clear. All right. And now I just got, oh. Well, bail. I might be bailing out on this one earlier than expected because I seem to be fucking up. And if there's anything I've learned over my years of sewing, I have Aries ruling my sixth house, which is the house that describes how you work, your work environment, and your method of working, your attitudes towards work, all that. And having Aries ruling the sixth house says I can work hard. So Mars is the ruler of Aries. Mars rules my sixth house because Aries rules it, and I can work very hard. And that Mars sits in my sixth house in Taurus. Taurus is a fixed sign. Fixed signs are stubborn, and they hang in there. They're future oriented. They're non-moving. Okay, so I can not only work hard passionately because of the Aries. I go at it with, with a will, with some fire behind it. But with that ruling planet sitting in a fixed sign, it says I can do it over a long period of time. And Taurus is, tangible things. So when I'm working on things physically like this, I can just go and go and go and roll past my boundaries and my limits to my detriment. I can hurt myself because of just wanting to finish something. And I've learned over the years that when I start fucking up, it's time to stop. So hearing what I just said, I think I'm going to put the letters on, and then I'm going to bail. This pen is really goopy. It's coming out very fast. That E almost doesn't look like an E because the lines came out really thick. A, and this one I will turn upside down like this. So I have to be careful to not even press very hard with this pen because the paint really is pouring out. All right. All right, Bale. You dry. Let me collect. Let me get my shit together because this pattern is it's got diagonals in it, so it's very interesting to reproduce. And Slip the Trap, you were talking about dark ones with dark black mirror. These aren't black mirrors. This is just where the mirror is reflecting. These are all just regular mirrors. There you're seeing my camera and my ceiling reflected. This one isn't a dark mirror. It's just, it's sitting underneath my my shell there, and it looks like it's a dark mirror. That would be a really cool thing to get. And I guess, a black mirror is just a piece of glass painted black on the back rather than silvered on the back. So that would totally be possible to do. I think that might be a really cool thing to do, as a matter of fact. One of the hardest things about doing these is the fact that you are working on a mirror. And so you're trying to see something clearly that you're working on, and you're seeing everything that's reflected in it rather than the surface of the glass or in addition to the surface of the glass. And it just makes it a bitch. So, and this I will do some more cleanup on because I got a little smeary. One big thing I could use is clean Q-tips. All right. I'm getting fussy, and I'm going to quit. I will probably invite you back when I come back to work on these some more. Depends on my mood. But I like the idea of sitting and working on things and being able to talk about what's going on and having people watching. And, it doesn't bug me that Slip the Trap and I are having, one-on-one time, because this will be a video and you'll be able to look at it. And I'm, the videos that I've been doing, the unboxings, you've heard a lot of promises from me. I'm going to do this, and I'm setting up my Patreon, and we're going to do this and this and this. And obviously, those things are very slow to unfold. And once again, my passion and my enthusiasm and inspiration have gotten ahead of the horse. You know, the cart has gotten ahead of the horse. And this is a lesson that I don't know that I will ever solidly learn in this lifetime. But I have to take things slower. So I think, I'm just going to invite you guys along as often as I can. If I'm sitting here and crafting, I am going to try to shoot some video on my phone, and maybe with my big camera, because there are a lot of things that I'm going to be working on in my downstairs space where I've got a huge table to work on. And it just would kind of be fun to have you there with me while I'm doing these things. Eventually, I do want to have in my earlier live, I was talking about doing a live stream sale. I would like to try that. But, there's only 360 of you at this point. So I guess it's just I'm going to keep playing and inviting you along. I'm going to make product, whether I do a sale on the channel or I do, reactivate my Etsy shop, or both. Who knows? We'll see. It's going to take a little while. But in the meantime, I'm going to be here and I will talk to you and I'm going to teach you what I know. I've said before that I'm, feeling with my cronehood, which has a lot of freedom coming with it. Another thing that's coming with that is just this very strong need to pass on what I know. And my children, being my children, are kind of meh about it. They've grown up with it. And it's like, that's just mom. And I told my son that one of the main reasons I'm doing this channel is for them, because I don't want there to be the case that after I'm dead, my kids are going, oh my God, I wish I could talk to her again. I wish she would tell us, we could hear what she knows. So I'm kind of doing this mostly so my kids can have what I know, and so I can have a little ease of mind that I'm actually putting out what I know for them. And, you're the beneficiaries too. So that's it. I'm going to just keep plugging along here. Hopefully I can put up some content that's interesting enough to the majority of you. Oh, hi, Lisa. Hey. Well, we've got a couple in here. My thing, okay, I'm going to refresh my chat because my thing is saying one viewer, so that tells me maybe Slip the Trap has bailed out. But so I am interested in knowing what your questions are. And you can comment below. I look at all the comments. I reply to all your comments because we are a very small little community. And I know probably some people are not dedicated to this as a community right now. They're just, listening to stuff about tarot decks. But I would really love for this to be an interactive community, where we can talk to each other, where, we can help each other out. There's really not much more that's more important than that. So, and to have some fun along the way too. So as I'm working on these, I will certainly give you everything that I can come up with about how to use them, about spell work to do with them. They'll probably be available to you at some point if you're interested in having one of them. This deck that I'm talking about, the Solomon's Seal, the 72 Spirits of Solomon, is not available. It is out of print and has been out of print for a while. And there's the last one I saw was like up online for $400, which is ridiculous. It was published by Llewellyn in 1988. So there's always a chance that Llewellyn will put it back in print. Maybe go to their site and say, I'm looking for this, contact them. I might do the same thing. And keep hunting around the internet if you're interested, because you can maybe find somebody that doesn't know people are selling it for $400 and that might sell it for cheaper. So anyhow, that's kind of all I have to say. From what I understand, it's snowing. Yippee! Winter is not over yet. So I will be talking to you guys on Friday at the very latest. There's a new video coming up. What's coming up on Friday? The Egyptian Oracle is going to be up this Friday. And then more on Monday, more on Friday. If you like it, like it. If you know other people that would like it, share it. And talk to me. I would like to talk to you. And I will see you again next time. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, hi, Mary. Well, you know what? You just popped in, so I'm gonna stick around a little bit more, I guess. I've been making sigils tonight. Um, and I need to look at my analytics to see when people are available to watch. One assumes the evening, but I don't know where everybody is. And I did a live stream in the middle of the day today that had 0 viewers while I was doing it. And you figure, yeah, in the middle of a business day, in the middle of a week, you're not going to get a lot of people because most people, I assume, have day jobs. Um, so that's the other reason I decided to do something this evening is just to be here and available to see, who might be interested in looking at lives. I've noticed that live streams get the most attention. So, maybe in addition to the unboxing videos, I will just keep doing live streams and crafting and stream of consciousness talking and teaching you everything I know about magic and life and, you know, crystals and oils and spells and all that kind of shit. Um, and, other things that I've promised in the past, I certainly am going to do too. I want to do some guided meditations. Meditation is so very important to me and important to everybody, and I think I need to start doing some of them. So, bottom line here, it's so funny because it's Mercury retro, and my energy has come back. I've had my recovery time after Hogwarts, and usually Mercury retro, my energy goes pretty wonky. I used to, back in my 20s and early 30s, I used to have pass out attacks a lot. I have this orthostatic hypotension, which means if I stand still, lock my knees, my blood pressure drops and down I would go. And I started tracking it after the first couple of times, and I noticed that it always happened on a Mercury retro. Um, don't know exactly why. Retrograde energy means that astrologically that the planet's energy is just difficult to access on a practical level. So Mercury is the intellect, it's communication, it's schedules, it's like the logistics of life, the small logistics of life, um, and what gets you through every day, your routines, that kind of stuff. And so when Mercury goes retro, the that energy is harder to access on a practical level. So communications go haywire. We have trouble communicating to each other clearly. Schedules go wonky. Electronics go crazy. And, depending on where Mercury's retrograding, it's going to have a different effect. It is in Pisces right now. So, Mercury in Pisces to begin with makes thinking not clear. It makes it much more intuitive, much more on the psychic gut level, much more on the atmospheric. I'm picking up vibes rather than hearing words clearly. So, we were already in that strange place for Mercury. And actually, Mercury in Pisces is called being in detriment. So Mercury rules Virgo, it rules Gemini and Virgo, and the sign opposite the sign that a planet rules. So that the sign of its rulership is the dignity, it's in dignity. The sign opposite is in detriment. There's then a sign of exaltation where it comes to full expression, and the sign opposite that is called the sign of its fall. And it just is how the planet expresses itself. In dignity, it expresses easily. In detriment, it's held back some. In exaltation, it's, got all the room to move and then some. And then in fall, it has a very difficult time expressing. So Mercury is in detriment in Pisces because Pisces is all about vibes and feelings and, psychic, intuitive, and the unconscious. And Mercury is the conscious mind. So we were already behind the 8 ball, and now it's retrograde. I've been kind of stunned that I've been able to sit and speak clearly through these because when Mercury is retrograde and I'm doing readings, I will be sitting there and I have this clear thing in my head and I can't find the words to relate it to the other person. So I'm kind of surprised that I've been shooting my mouth off like this. Um, so, uh, so yeah, that's just a little bit on Mercury retro. Um, I don't know where exactly I was going with that, but oh, I think it's kind of funny that I'm really getting my back together again and getting like a plan together. But see, this is a good use for Mercury retrograde. Um, since things aren't practically accessible, it's much better to let me. It's much better to use it for planning the next phase. And what happens during a Mercury retro is everything that was scheduled, planned, thought about, communicated about, put into your plan of action since the last retro period is going to come up for review. So anything that needs to be fixed is going to break so that it comes to your attention and you find, oh, I have to address this. So the proper use of Mercury retro is reviewing, reconsidering, reworking your schedule, rescheduling. It's the re part, review. So, it is a good time to review everything that's going on and say, how do I want to do this? So that's what's going on with me right now. I made a lot of promises and have not come anywhere close to keeping them. And so I guess all bets are off now. The only thing I'm promising is that I'm going to keep showing up here and I'm going to keep talking. So, oh, postural orthostatic tachycardia. Ow. Yeah, so that see, I didn't have the tachycardia. I just had the, out, out cold. And I will tell you, beyond a doubt, I would rather pass out than throw up any day of the week. But the tachycardia's got to be really scary, a very scary thing. I imagine my son, well, both of my kids went to a performing arts school, and they had performing arts and visual arts. It was a public school. It was an amazing place, and my daughter was in orchestra, and my son was in choir and keyboard. And at Christmas, they would have the choir concerts, and we did it at this center in downtown in a neighboring city. And they were in this atrium place where it was all windows, and the sun would be pouring in. And here's these kids standing on risers wearing velvet with the sun pouring in while they're doing this concert. And boy, they had a concert there where they were dropping like flies. I think 4 kids passed out. And it's like, what's the first thing they tell you? Don't lock your knees. Keep your knees unlocked and keep them fluid and, shift your weight back and forth. I used to do this like in grocery store lines. I would be standing there, and if I would get that rush, this rush of lightheadedness. And then it becomes a self-perpetuating thing because then panic sets in. Oh shit, I'm going to pass out. And then the fear, with anxiety and panic disorder, the fear would come in and I would get even worse. So what I learned was, first of all, to start shifting my weight, to shift my weight back and forth. And then the other thing was to tap the person next to me in line and say, I'm getting very dizzy. I may pass out. I'm going to be down here so I don't have as far to fall. And I would just like squat down and get my head down, below to try to get the blood back to my brain and everything. But, the main thing I learned is tell somebody what's happening so and get down low so I don't have very far to fall. Um, and then usually I would come out of it with, no harm done to anybody, no trauma to anybody. But it's a scary thing, very, very scary thing that I went through. I don't go through it anymore um, on a regular basis. I certainly do have panic attacks and things, but I've learned how to talk back. I was talking earlier on this live about talking back to negative thoughts. And it's also just being your own guardian in a way, like when I was going through a period of having like severe anxiety attacks, and I would be driving and a panic attack would come on. And there's a difference between anxiety attack and panic attack, but driving and having a full on panic attack. And it would be like, oh shit, I'm going to black out in the car. What am I going to do? And I would just start talking to myself. You're going to be okay. It's okay. You're still with us. If it gets bad, you can pull off the road. Do you need to pull off the road? No, I'm okay. All right, keep going. Let's keep going. You're okay. Breathe. Get a hold of my breath. And one of the things you can do, if you're panicked and feeling anxiety and the breath starts getting away from you, what we tend to do when we're feeling breathless is we tend to try to take in more breath. And then you're feeling like, I can't get a deep breath, and it's because you're forgetting about the exhale. So one thing to do is get the breath all the way out. Focus on the exhale. And that prevents hyperventilation, because hyperventilation is you take in too much oxygen. And so you've just got to, and I find what helps me is not just like big fast exhale, but purse your lips so that the exhale is really, 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 really slow. And that can help even out your breath. And then you squeeze all the air out, and the next breath can come in nice and deep. So anyhow, that's gosh, I've gone on for an hour and a half now. That's longer than I was on this afternoon, and I thought I didn't really have much to say tonight, but I guess I did. So again, I appreciate, I see somebody's jumped out already, but I appreciate you being here. The three of you, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do it, and like my videos if you do, and let me know what you'd like to hear about, and by all means engage. I want nothing more than to have a conversation with you. Okay, so take care. I will see you possibly tomorrow, certainly on Friday, and I hope until then that you are safe and well and connected to all that is. This is the Zen Witch. Blessed